Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Wired Unplugged. We have a debate just before we record every time about the number of it, but it's number 3. Hi to everybody listening, and hello especially to those watching on YouTube, because you actually get to see us too. There's a whole video aspect to this, guys, if you didn't know. This week we are joined by the multifaceted, mega talented Ash Paulsen, who's here the whole time. There we
The
go.
whole time,
Right.
The whole time. There's no cutting away. There's
Yep.
no cutting
We
away.
don't just wheel it out like an interview saying Ash is here the full time, and as usual,
You had me for the whole time, yeah.
yeah, exactly, and mainstay part of the furniture, but still valiant and glorious, or whatever words I've been using to describe. I should add one every time and see how far we can go. It's Aaron Cooper.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
So
See, he's the true star of the show from where I'm sitting. I love this man so much. You're talking about me being multifaceted and multi-talented. I would describe Aaron as those things personally.
okay, well, just make sure that you've sent Aaron your PayPal details after the show for
Will do.
Yeah, okay, good.
I'm back. I'm back in shot.
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah. Aaron's great.
I love you, man.
Yeah. You can let the people know. This isn't you, Ash. The general listeners can let the people know what they like the most about Aaron, and help shape the show by emailing in at unplugged@wiredproductions.com, where you can send us anything you want. But this week, your favorite thing about Aaron would be really nice. So, Aaron does a lot for us. The one thing that he does every week is introduce the latest in the ministry of Wired propaganda. And we'll kick off with the Wired propaganda because we've had some breaking news that we will share with you right now. But first, a jingle.
Wired propaganda.
It's a very different vibe to Good Vibes Gaming jingle, isn't it, Ash?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going from T Lopes to this. It's quite a jump.
Jake,
Yeah.
you'll appreciate this. T Lopes did the theme tune for Good Vibes Gaming.
That is really
That's
something.
so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ours is Gloria Gaynor. So
Yes.
Nice.
equally as impressive. Yeah.
She stepped up. She changed genres.
Yeah. She's
Belted out these intros. It's great.
She's got the
But
range.
she does have the range. She has the range indeed. But breaking news, this just came in just before we started recording. We 3 are going to be at PAX, which is great, but we're also going to be hosting a panel.
Yeah, so that's PAX East, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, baby. For those who are listening from, I don't know, somewhere else, Poland or something. PAX East, one of the best gaming conventions in the world, in my opinion. And we just found that out today. We put in for a panel, and they were like, "Boys, come along." So
we're answering the call, and that's going to be myself, Jake, Ash. Actually, I'm not going to point because I don't know where you're going to be putting the edit.
Yeah.
So wherever Ash is, around.
I am so excited, you guys. I just have missed shows so much in general, throughout the pandemic. And I did go to PAX West last year. Me and a couple of the other Good Vibes Gaming crew went, and it was fun. But you could definitely tell it was still a bit of a shell of its former self. And PAX East may still be that this year, but I'm gonna get to be with you, lovely gentlemen. And Aaron personally is he's like my brother from another mother, my dearest friend, and I haven't seen him in I don't even know how long. I haven't seen you in person, and it's just they need to put LA and the UK closer together. I don't know how we make that happen. Maybe mess with some tectonic plates, but we got to do something.
It's really exciting, and you're dead right. Like there's this kind of, I think it's a bit more of a positive anticipation now, but a good friend of mine went to PAX West as well and said that it felt like a convention impersonating PAX West, rather than a real PAX West.
That's a good way to put it.
And
a detective coat. So it
was like a PAX tribute act, but this seems to be the one where, because it actually became, without trying to get too deep into it, I think PAX West was still a little bit of a taboo subject for developers and publishers, in terms of like sending their staff there and things like that. But there seems to be a lot more of a positive and general sentiment that's in favor of conventions again now. And so I hope that that's something that we get to see, like, fully like, I hope there's a turnout. And if you are at PAX East, you can let us know. And do us one better. You can attend. And you can hear us in person. You can heckle us in person. You can see Aaron Cooper in the flesh. so where it's like, what's it called again? The stage, Aaron. It's like named
the
after
Arachnid Theatre. So
Oh, ironic. Because I
arachnophobes.
hate spiders.
Yeah.
You do hate spiders?
I do. I am terrified
Are you going to be okay?
of spiders.
I don't think they
I
fill
think
it
I'll
with
be
spiders.
okay. I don't think there are any actual arachnids in the arachnid theater, so I should be okay. But yeah, it is one of those weird things where I've never had a bad experience with spiders, but my fear of them is so intense that I can't even play games. Like, let's talk about like the original Resident Evil, for example, with the giant tarantula type.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I can't play them straight up. Can't do it. I don't know.
I just like the idea when we turn up and just someone's like, "Oh yes, there are arachnids here in the nest in the corner. They fester."
Oh God!
I don't know why they would be from that region of the UK and talk like that.
Right?
Yeah.
But,
that's your Spider Wrangler accent, is it? So yeah,
it's my Yorkshire Batman. Where are they?
Yeah, very, very, very good. Well, yeah, we got a Friday slot as well.
We do.
Nice.
And I think without giving too much away, Wired work in a very different way to most publishers, and being an indie publisher, they can function in their own way. And the whole theme of the panel, or the through line of the panel, is how family is important to Wired and how they work with their developer partners. And actually, a big part of it is why PAX is so important to the Wired journey, but then also the genesis or the germination and growth of Safe in Our World as well. Cool. How actually, Ash, we met for the first time in person. So there's a lot that we're going to cram into that arachnid theatre.
Yeah,
8 legs of information.
So very good. There we go.
Nice.
We'll send that over to them. Yeah. So yeah, very, very cool. And if you're in town, come and have a listen on a Friday. I think it's fun. It's beautiful actually, because I think it ends up. I think the panel's on the same time that we put this podcast live every week as well, like 4:30 on a Friday or something.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just complete coincidence. So that is something that we didn't really anticipate to discuss this week. It just happened 15 minutes before recording. So that's one very exciting, especially for us, bit of Wired news. But what else is on deck, Aaron?
So, Wired Faithful will remember a game called Deliver Us the Moon, a game that took you to space, into the stars. Mm-hmm. But we're actually proud to announce that Deliver Us the Moon is actually going to be coming to Google Stadia. Cool. And that's made by the team at Kayakan. Ash, you met Paul and Cone Deepman before at PAX. They were the guys in the spacesuits.
Yes.
Really dreamy looking dudes. But yeah, Deliver Us the Moon is going to be coming to Stadia, which is great. The reception from the Stadia fan base has already been very positive. And I learned something interesting this morning, that people who are fans of Stadia players, they call themselves collectively Stadians.
I've heard that.
Did you know this? I didn't know this.
I did.
No. It's
go ahead.
I was just gonna say it sounds a bit like a race of ancient civilization from a Mass Effect game. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, them Stadians. I don't know why I'm still doing this voice, but
yeah. My favorite though. So I've heard Stadians, Xbots, Nintendrones, and then my personal favorite, Sony ponies.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why they're Sony ponies. I don't know where that came from, but I like it.
I think they were just struggling for words that rhyme with Sony, weren't they? They really must have.
Sony baloney. No, sorry, I actually like Sony.
It doesn't have quite the same ring to it. So
yeah.
Throw them words out.
Nintendrones. Yeah, I always remember that. Yeah, interesting. So Stadians does definitely sound the most gladiatorial, actually.
And that was the whole concept of Stadia, right? Like Stadia being the stadiums that gladiators were performing, and it was that was like the whole concept behind their reveal.
So that's interesting. Deliver Us to the Moon launches on the 22nd of April.
April 22nd,
the same day as our panel. By the way.
Oh, what a great day!
Yeah, exactly. So we can tell you again in person. Show up, and we'll make sure that you're reminded. Okay. That's great. That's great. That's not even it. That's not even half of it, is it? What else have we got on the slate?
No. So we'd like to welcome 2 new starters to Wired, who started this week, and at the end of last week. So Ashmina has joined the QA team, who's going to be getting wrist deep into all of the games. She's already kicking off to an amazing start. She participated in our International Women's Awareness Week as well. Straight off the bat, straight in and like, yep, here I am. And also Curtis, who started as the digital content manager. So you'll see a lot of his stuff appearing across the internet, across social media, and so on. And the team continues to grow. And why does the team continue to grow? Because this year, even though a lot of things haven't been announced yet, there's an incredible trove of games that are still coming this year, and it's going to be very busy. So more people absolutely needed. Brilliant. So welcome to them. Welcome to them.
Yeah, cool. I feel like at any moment we're going to say, let's bring them out.
Let's bring them out
for the video.
Bring them out for speedboat.
But yeah, very cool. Ashmina, Curtis, welcome. And I guess we should give one last eulogy. Aaron?
Oh, I like what you did there. So Martha is still dead. But no. So the reception's been incredible in scale. I don't think it was anticipated the levels of attention that this game would soar to. So we're not going to dive too much into Martha's Dead, because if you want a real deep dive, listen to the last episode of this. We had Akim Heidelov. Can you say his name now?
Heidelov. Yeah.
And Leo on to take a real deep dive into everything that happened with Martha's Dead, from the changes needed to the PlayStation version to the general reception on how different people perceive the same story and what people take from it. It's and we spoke about a lot of cows as well.
We did, and I noticed there was a tweet then about the cows specifically, and I just couldn't help but think that we were somehow responsible for that. So that was really good. But yeah, so if you are interested in finding out more, the previous episode in Wired Unplugged, is a bit of a ceremonious rite to lay Martha to rest.
I'm too good at this.
It's almost like all I do all my life is watch like gothic horror stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm just Edgar Allan Poe over here. So
I think one more thing to add on Martha still being dead as well is that the team are working on updates and patches as well, which have some have been delivered and some are on the way. So do look forward to those landing, just to help tweak and change a few things here and there, make the experience all the better.
Brilliant. Well, Aaron, thank you very much for another ministerial propaganda push. We're going to now go over to the internet and the gaming world as a whole as we go into news. Well, do you know what? Let's just jingle it.
Newsweek Stone from Google.
Thank you very much to Grant Kirkhope and David Wise for providing that. Great. So this is a segment of the podcast, if you aren't familiar, where we talk about things that aren't Wired centric, and in fact just about general gaming things on the internet. And I'm so glad that we have Ash here, because you're all across it, aren't you? You know about video games?
Yes. Just a bit. I've played a video game or two in my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, what have you brought to us? This time?
So, we've spoken previously about the Lost episode, which happened just before a Nintendo Direct, where we happened to guess that Klonoa.
It was all you. I just want to make this very clear. Aaron said Klonoa. I had nothing to do with it, because how can I sit here and take credit for such a mad guess that was so brilliantly on the money?
You inspired me.
Well, look,
but
that was
the problem is that due to that episode is going to see the light of day, but there is the special guest had some information that we can't talk about just yet, so we need to just make sure that the timings and the stars align for when that can go out, which should be soon. So no one ever really got to see that. Actually, we did guess that. and that we're not just pre-recording it and saying, yeah, Klonoa, obviously. But we have another opportunity to smash this collectively. I think the wisdom, we can probably get some things on the money. So, PlayStation State of Play is happening.
Okay.
What
today?
do we think? Yes, today or earlier in the week, if you're listening to this when it goes live, which is when everyone will be listening to this, really, I guess. But the whole presentation is going to be predominantly focused on Japanese publisher partners. Now, what do we think we're going to see? And what is your one wild guess of, please make this happen?
Okay, so
oh man. Well, I know what I want to see.
I have one that I'm keeping under my hat, but Ash, go on. Bring
well,
the
I know what I
fire.
want to see. I don't know if they'll actually be here, but I know that it's high time that we see it, and that is Final Fantasy 16. That has now been released, or not released, announced so long ago now, and we've heard hide nor hair of it since then, and that's generally due to the pandemic, as we know.
Yeah.
But I just want to see what's going on with this game. But at the same time, I don't know if they'll show it because they just also delayed Forspoken, and I don't know if that sends the best message to delay Forspoken and then show FF16 right after it. So I'm not sure. That I would have predicted FF16 prior to that delay, but now I'm not so sure if they're going to show it. So I hope so, though.
Yeah, no, I think you're dead right, Ash. I think if I was to predict and then predict further, I imagine they'll keep it closer to home, and it will be Stranger of Paradise, which is that like Final Fantasy spin-off title, that's out very soon, isn't it? Yeah, that's out very very soon. So I think they'll focus on that, and I think that if they're bringing 16, it'll more likely be E3 time, right? Surely they can't show 16.
Oh, well, or the time that previously was attributed to E3.
Oh yeah.
No, there may not be.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like there's going to be an E3 this year.
Yeah, you're quite right. Yes. Okay. So yeah. Final Fantasy. Is it the 35th anniversary this year?
35th anniversary. Yeah,
it is. Amazing. Yep.
And funnily enough, I believe it was this morning or last night, a website celebrating the 35th anniversary of Final Fantasy mysteriously materialized.
Oh,
yes,
that's cool.
Convenient.
Kind of a boring site so far, though. I checked it out briefly last night before heading to bed, and I'm sure they'll fill it out. But so far, there's not a whole lot there yet.
It's interesting, right? Because if you look at what's going on in Final Fantasy, the remasters, the HD 2D style remasters have landed on mobile.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's an opportunity for those to come to console in celebration. Hopefully, we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah.
Stranger of Paradise is on the way. It's next on the roster. Final Fantasy 16 is out in the wild. We're still expecting Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2.
Yes, in my veins.
Yeah, that's the one for me. I'll take one of them, please. Yep.
However,
that's really all I want. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna just bat one out, Klonoa style. Final Fantasy 9 Remake.
Drop the mic. Because that was in the NVIDIA leak, along with.
Was it?
Yeah, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, right alongside things like the Chrono Cross remaster, which we now know is real. So
that does exist.
I do think there is a chance we could get an FF9. Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, they could very, very easily do it in the same engine as the Final Fantasy 7 Remake 2, and then the content and assets are the only thing.
Can you imagine?
Like 9 is really, I'm such a fanboy of 7, but if I had to be boring and look at it objectively, like I think out of the 7, 8, and 9 trilogy, I think 9 might be the best. So it's one of them where I don't want to admit it, but really I kind of know it's true.
I think I would agree with that. I love them all. I love them all for different reasons. I love 7. I love 7 Remake. I love 8 because it's weird and it's like the video game version of a fever dream. It's just like playing a fever dream. It's so weird. But 9 just has that. It just exudes charm out of every single pore. And but I don't think I would expect FF9 Remake, if it is real and we do see it, I don't think I'm going to expect it to be quite as deep a remake as FF7 Remake has been. I don't think they're going to go quite that intense with it. I think it'll be an overhaul for sure, but I don't expect it to be like a completely from the ground up current generation remake. Could be wrong, but I don't see that.
That's
it's a lot to juggle. It's a lot to juggle, isn't it? Actually, if you think about it, if they did go full on with Final Fantasy IX remake, they have Final Fantasy VII remake Part 2. I suppose the point of difference there would be that spoiler warning to an extent is that Final Fantasy VII remake is now walking its own path, shall we say?
Right.
Whereas 9 could take a more traditional approach potentially, which would limit the scope, I guess.
They should do what they did with that. What was it? Link's Awakening. They just like made little cheapy models.
That'd be great.
Oh, right.
That would be great.
You know, something like that. I was just thinking about like what when Ash was on about just like, you know, maybe not as deep a remake. I was thinking, oh, that's something like that. You know, like I can see that. Well, I think.
Well, also, I was saying also when you consider that, you know, FF9 is arguably even longer a game than FF7, and when you take into account, you know, the modern costs of game development and asset creation, I really just don't see how they could do an FF7 remake of FF9 without it taking a decade or something to actually get through the entire story.
Yeah,
but let alone the first disc.
Jake, I think you're responsible for this trailer for now, but you know, I think Square Enix have been praised a lot recently, and they're getting a lot of use out of this now is for their HD 2D approach. But what is the plus approach to the Final Fantasy IX style of game? Do you know what I mean? I think someone jokingly, I think I saw on Twitter, someone jokingly mentioned, oh, you know, HD 3D to, you know, because again, they could then use that with Final Fantasy VIII, which is my favorite Final Fantasy game.
Yeah. Nice.
Is there like a middle ground outside of them just doing the remasters, which they did, which was okay? Is there like a half step to do something fresh and different? I don't know. And then something that also makes business sense for their teams going forward as well.
Yeah, exactly. Less of a commitment for sure. So okay. So I like how we've all kind of gone. Final Fantasy will be good. So I think the harsh reality is it'll be Stranger of Paradise, because I just think it's the one people
not.
Chose Chaos.
Just because it's coming out in like a week, so it's like why?
Yeah, that's it. And it'll be an announcement of something like a beta, right, or a demo or something, or beta, whatever. So what I want, I don't care that it's, you know, realistic. Maybe I can manifest it into the world right now. Just do something with Silent Hill, isn't it? Just bring it back. It's what.
Oh, I was going to mention that.
Yeah.
It feels like we've been on the cusp of a Silent Hill announcement for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
You know, Konami. Who knows what they're doing over there? Yeah. But like, God, it's been such a badly kept secret. We don't have any confirmation yet, but as we understand it, there are at least 2 Silent Hill projects in the works from 2 different teams. I just want one of them to materialize. Please. I miss that series so much. Yeah. I was always more of a Silent Hill guy than a Resident Evil guy.
Same.
Same.
Yeah, exactly the same. I think and Resident Evil's had a beautiful boom with the remakes of 2 and maybe to a lesser extent 3. But all they need to do is remake 4 and everyone will be just mad on it. But, you know, 7, 2 remake, to some extent the 3 remake, people who were even too young to remember them, you know, but Silent Hill is like a game that is like 20 years old. Silent Hill 2 is like 21 years old, and it's like one of the best. But you're telling, you know, I work with a lot of streamers in my day job, and half of them were about 5 years old when that game came out. So you know, I'd love to see, even if it was that. Give me a remake, give me a reboot, just give me a completely new entry. Just bring that IP back to life. Yeah, that's what I'd love.
I have another off the wall thing, and it's something that I actually would like to see, and it's just me going off tangent, but a new Castlevania game. However, it is a Souls style Castlevania game.
I mean, in a way, I always thought that Souls was a bit like a Castlevania game. I know.
But I just want, you know, like Dracula's not in any Souls game at the moment, and I'm just like,
that's true.
Yeah.
But I think maybe taken from the angle and lens of what Jedi Fallen Order did for Star Wars in terms of it's a route into Souls games, but there are still expansive things to discover and so on. I think it could make for an interesting marriage, and I think if they are looking for a way to revitalize the Castlevania series, and it could be an interesting approach to take if they can do it right. Though that's the most important
So
thing.
are we agreeing that basically
That's the thing.
we just want Konami to do something?
Yes.
Yeah, right. I just don't know if I trust modern Konami to do that right, and especially with with Iga now gone. I like when I think Castlevania, at least for me personally, I think Igavanias. Like Lords of Shadow never really did it for me, but I also know that the ship on anything new 2D Castlevania wise, at least in proper Castlevania, that ship has sailed because again, Iga's gone. But at least now he's making games like Bloodstained, so we're still getting that style of game. But I don't know if I trust modern Konami to do that right. Just kind of like I don't really trust modern Rare to do a Banjo-Kazooie 3 right necessarily. Most of that team now is over at Playtonic. So I don't know if they can do it. I want to believe they can. I really do.
Yeah, I guess that kind of falls a little bit in line with, the sorry if it's a bit of a harsh reality check for everybody, that Silent Hill's about 20 years old. That a lot of these IP are made by people who are, retired, living their life somewhere, So
right.
it really is a testament to that, isn't it? And companies shifting over time, like you wouldn't, expect like I don't know, McDonald's to be the same owners, so even though what they're producing isn't half as creative. So I guess like the more the video game industry progresses, the more people will have to come to that. And I guess the big conversation point every time they put out a game is BioWare, isn't it? That's the one that people are just like, oh, the BioWare of old. So yeah,
right.
I'm interested to see if it's exclusively Eastern developers in this direct.
Right.
I was expecting a kind of little small something, Sly Cooper or something. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would be good.
Well, on that note, I will throw out one more thing that I think this ship is permanently sailed, but I will always hope that there's a little glimmer of hope, and that's Parappa the Rapper 3. I would love nothing
That is great.
more than to see Parappa return after all these years. Aaron knows I'm a huge fan of rhythm games.
Yeah.
And I love Parappa as a character. I love those games.
Yeah.
Maybe they're janky by today's rhythm game standards, but I don't care. He was a pioneer of the rhythm game genre alongside Lammy. Bring back those characters. They are such great kind of forgotten mascot characters for PlayStation.
I love that.
And I just want to see him back, man.
You gotta
believe. You gotta believe.
You gotta kick. You gotta punch.
Exactly. It's all in the mind. Yep.
Yeah. But
I love it.
I find this state of play, how they have positioned it, interesting, right? Because I think there was a lot of discussion recently where it was identified that actually PlayStation don't have a lot of internal Japanese studios anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if this is being done as a way to say, okay, this might be a thing, but actually from a perception point of view, we still support Japanese developers. Japanese style games are still important to our ecosystem, and this is why we could be the best place to experience this.
Is there anything that we
They
think
need
we
to do
won't
that.
see?
I don't think we'll see another Gravity Rush. Sorry, John Cartwright.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'd love to see Gravity Rush. In fact, John was mentioning the other day, or yesterday, I guess, Sony specifically removed Kat from their image for International Women's Day.
No.
And like, why? That's just adding insult to injury. I mean, we're already probably never going to get another Gravity Rush game, and then they go and remove Kat, who, by the way, is such a cool character. What a great design.
Yeah.
Underloved series, underloved character. It's really a shame.
Actually, sorry, racing mind can't form words. No, but that game that is set in Tokyo and it features a cat as the main character. That looks great to me. I don't know off the top of my head if it's made by a Japanese studio, but it looks
Is that the one that's
incredible.
called like Stray?
I think so.
Is it Stray?
It's like a really
I knew
cool,
it took place in Tokyo.
realistic-looking Tokyo environment, I think, and then you play as a cat on an adventure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Okay,
then,
that might be Stray, but if it is, I didn't know it took place in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And then what's Kojima up to?
What is Kojima up to? And
what
if it's not PT, I don't want to know.
What is he? Yeah. Right, exactly. You mentioned your mind racing, Aaron, and that got me thinking. One dream announcement for me that I don't see happening, but there was once upon a time where PlayStation and Ridge Racer were closely united, and I miss Ridge Racer so much.
That's
Bandai
good.
Namco, please. And I'm not talking about your Ridge Racer Unbounded or whatever the hell that I'm talking about. Old school classic Ridge Racer, like 1 through 7, just drifting around hairpin corners at like 400 miles per hour with great, trance pumping. And I love that series. And no other arcade racer quite hits that same itch that Ridge Racer did for me. And I still hope someday.
Are you saying it right? The name of the game?
Ridge Racer? Oh, it's Ridge Racer. Ridge Racer.
There we go.
Yeah, remember that one? Yeah. But I would love to see a Ridge Racer 8 announcement someday. At even today at the SOP, but I don't see it happening. I just got to thinking that because you said your mind was racing.
No. Oh, I like it. Sorry, I realized what triggered you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, I mean, we could literally talk about that for another 50 minutes, but let's not. Let's talk about something far less exciting.
I think I'm gonna have to skip over some of my news sections, to be honest. But
yeah, do it.
But I think let's dive in. So it was recently, Jake. We've spoken about this to some degree in the past.
Yeah.
Right. Bobby Kotick is set to leave the board of directors of Coca-Cola, and it said he's doing that so that he can focus on the transition of the acquisition of Activision Blizzard into the Microsoft family. As we've dived deep into this topic before, and we've gone through our thoughts and feelings and opinions on the situation there. So we don't need to go that deep, but I think it's a very interesting development for him as a business entity.
Business entity is an interesting term to use for somebody.
That is
unfortunately, I can't recognize him as a human. So
I was gonna say I don't know who we're like. Bobby Kotick. The only one I know is Bobby Kotick, and I don't know who are we talking about here. It's so hard to like you put it perfectly, Aaron. It's so hard to see him as a human being. He's just such a scumbag, man. And great, whatever he does, he's going to be sitting on piles and piles of money and whatever. But I
didn't even know he was.
We've talked about him so much lately. Yeah, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
who knows what else? Yeah.
His influence reached far and wide in the corporate world. So you would potentially think that being on the board of Coca-Cola had more benefits and gain for him as an individual if he wanted to slip away, and then also the financials that would come with such a global mega corporation. So it's a very interesting development in my mind. As it stands, it seems that it's voluntary, but I think if he was trying to slip out of the limelight of the spotlights of the game industry, which is watching every move like a hawk, getting lost in Coca-Cola outside of that might have been a way. But obviously, who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not going to read too much into lie because libel exists, so I don't want to be sued.
Right.
Yeah, don't crush our pack's dreams by getting beaten up by Bobby. Okay, what else?
Hope he doesn't turn up. Okay, so next up, I'm glad that I did scroll through Twitter before this, but Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp has been delayed by Nintendo due to the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. It was originally meant to launch, or its second launch date was meant to be at the start of April. But due to the current global situation and what is going on in Ukraine, they have decided that it is best to delay this for now. And I think I get it with good reason. You know, this is a stylized through the eyes that could be perceived through the eyes of children's look at war, and the way the kind of story progresses throughout those two games as well. There are some similarities that are there. So
to the real life situation, of course,
it's interesting. But
yeah,
but then it's not a move you would usually see Nintendo make, and I thought it was very interesting to have an open discussion about this on what your thoughts and feelings are.
Well, I think I'm gonna coin Ash as the Nintendo expert over me on this one, but I'll say this: I think the word war being in the title of the games is definitely hindered, because a game with combat in is very, very common these days, but to outright depict by that sort
was
of
that dinosaur then?
I heard that as well. It was, yeah.
I don't know what that was. LA's got to calm down, man. I don't know what that was.
Yeah,
but
dinosaurs are loose.
Yeah, there's a new Jurassic Park outside actually. So
one of the running gags on GVG is that like almost all the time, I live like right above a main street in central LA, so we get sirens going by my apartment all the time. And so just a running gag on GVG is like during discussions or whatever, or live, reaction streams, the hype police come every single time, and it's always on my end. Always.
I haven't caught you yet, Ash.
Yeah, not quite yet.
But Jake, sorry, you were making a very fine point. Before we were interrupted by the dinosaur.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that. Yeah, I think the particulars of it, it's probably something to do with the fact that there is like a depiction of modern war on the front cover, as opposed to like Fire Emblem War, and the fact that if Fire Emblem was called War, there's probably a higher chance that would be delayed given this window. But the fact that it's right there means that
I think it's the fact that it's in the title. It's and it's modern warfare in terms of like tanks and artillery, and it's so reflective of what's going on right now, and it's different from something like Triangle Strategy, which also just came out and is ostensibly about war, but war isn't in the title. It's about ye old wars. It's not modern wars and
fantasy war.
Fantasy war. Yeah. And so I think this is the fact that it's in the title, and I think it's the right call. I can see why they're doing it. I don't know if they're trying to make a statement or if they're just trying to protect their own image. Either way, though, it's the right call.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say.
For sure. And I just mentioned this to Aaron before record, but Advance Wars, the initial Advance Wars launch was the day before 9/11. So very, very, very bad luck all round for the developers. Can't catch a break. Just some sort of
seriously.
Yeah, terrible for them. But okay, well, yeah. Thank you very much, Aaron. And that wraps the news we saw from the internet segment, because we could have literally talked about that for another 5 hours. But maybe the state of play, maybe not the war. so with that in mind, I think we should. Actually, we don't have a little jingle for this bit.
Do you know what? I think you should just use the
what's in the box?
The other jingle.
Yeah. Okay. So
the other jingle. All right.
Okay, this is our final segment.
What's in the box?
It's Ash. So
there he is.
So
nice. I'm here. I just popped up.
Yeah. So actually, around this time of the podcast, we cut to an interview normally done by me in a different time. So my beard's like completely not the same as it was when we were recording the rest of it. But you've been here the whole time, so there's a lovely bit of cohesion to this. And
yes.
This is normally a one-on-one interview, and it's normally with somebody I don't know much either. But Aaron's here, and he knows you very, very well. So I'm gonna be pretty easy breezy with this. But I would like you. If this is more, of an opportunity for you, Ash, to let the people at home know all about you and your expertise. And the best place to start is normally the beginning, isn't it? So, Ash, who are you and what do you do?
So my name is Ash Paulsen, and I am the creator and co-founder of a YouTube channel and Patreon and Discord server, all under the umbrella Good Vibes Gaming. And it's essentially, if you've heard of the channel Game Explain, it is basically almost every single member of the old crew of Game Explain back together under the new umbrella of Good Vibes Gaming. So it's me, Derek Bittner, John Cartwright, and Steve Bowling, kind of going off to do our own thing and having creative control and reaping the benefits of our own work. And and it's been an incredible journey so far. We're in the midst of our second year. We're almost a year and a half old, I would say. And it's been a lot of work, but it's been so incredibly rewarding to again have creative control and really finally reap the benefits of all the work we do on YouTube anyway, and as content creators anyway. And it's so yeah, that's us. And we lead with the pillars of inclusivity, kindness, just goodness. We want to push back against that narrative that games are a white boys club. They never should have. They never should have been that. They should never be perceived to be that. Games are for everybody, and we welcome everyone as long as you respect everyone from different cultures and backgrounds and gender identities and races. Everyone's welcome with GVG, and that's what we're all about. We just want to lead with positivity and kindness, and that's what we do.
I really like that, and I don't think I have much of an opportunity to say this and mean it to many people, but your story specifically with Game Explained to Good Vibes Gaming resonates with me very deeply because
cool.
Most people won't know this, but I was also in a very similar situation where I grew a channel from 0 to about 300,000 followers in about 2 years for a company averaging about 14 million views a month. And I was not reaping the rewards of the, £21,000 of ad revenue a month that the channel was making sometimes. Yeah. So myself and my friends, we left and started a podcast, but then we all got day jobs that we like a lot. So we do it every now and then and occasionally. But so to hear somebody in a similar situation doing a very, very, very good version of that and seeing how it can happen, I love that. There's a kind of a tangent, but Vice had a show called All Gas No Breaks, a very similar situation, and the guys left to enjoy some of the benefits of the content that they had founded, called Channel 5. It's a very, very popular YouTube channel now, and documentary series and stuff like that. So I love to see people thriving in this, and I love that the personalities get to thrive and you get to talk, and well, that's obviously testament to yourself, but it shows, doesn't it, with the community that you've garnered. So yeah, I don't normally do this in the interview segment, do I, Aaron?
That's really interesting because that sounds almost word for word like what we went through at Game Explain, and it just we couldn't justify it anymore because I joined when the channel was was about 300,000 subs strong and stayed for 7-8 years, and we as a team all grew the channel to over 1 million subs. But for all the money, the gobs of money that channel was making, we were seeing the bare minimum slightest bit of it, and it wasn't right, and we were being overworked. We were basically content machines, and so we were like, you know what's the point? If we're going to work this hard, we should be for us. We should be reaping the benefits. And what's so cool though is that with Good Vibes Gaming, our community is reflective of the kind of people we are, and that's my favorite part of it. Is like our community doesn't expect us to be content machines. They get that we're husbands, fathers, we have day jobs, other than just GVG, and they see us as people, not content factories. So they're like, hey, you don't need to be, spitting out 8 videos a day. We're good. Like, we just want you guys to be happy and healthy. We love your content, but we're here for you guys. We're not here for 8 videos a day. And so it's just, there's a lot more of a personal community aspect, I feel much closer to the GVG community than I ever did the GX community. And because there's less of a separation there, I think it's like we're just, we don't, we're the stewards of the channel, of course, and the stewards of the community, and the buck stops with us. But we don't lead with a vibe like we're the celebrities, we're the content creators. No, we're just people who love games just like the rest of you, and we just want to talk with you on that level and not be seen as like the people at the top.
Yeah, no, it's a really beautiful thing, and it's great because one thing that people who are I'm making an assumption that anybody who's listening to this podcast at this point has sat through 45 minutes of long form entertainment with multiple people talking, which is a far cry away from a lot of the consumption of content these days with TikTok, people are telling stories in 7-8 seconds, and Twitch, which is, one person by themselves more often than not. And it almost seems like it's rarer to find groups of people doing gaming content in this way, and it's always exciting when you find something. So I hope people who are still listening, watching at this point, they're into this sort of thing. So it's definitely worth having a look at something like Good Vibes Gaming, because it's becoming more and more of, I don't want to say a niche, but I feel like as the trend has gone, only the people who are there for the right reasons have remained, I think, and it means that it's probably easier to find channels like yourselves now, right?
I think so. I definitely have noticed that, at least from our own metrics and our own view numbers and stuff, that what people want to see from us here at GVG is slightly different from what they wanted at GX. Like our the stuff we used to do at GX, like discussions and such, still do well enough for us, and like previews and reviews, they do fine. But more than anything, it seems like people want to see features from us, and like short form features, long form features, which is kind of an interesting twist and an interesting wrinkle that's different from what people expected of us at GX. But it's certainly been interesting to see, and that's one reason it's been such a wonderful just opportunity to be able to bring John Cartwright back in, because that man is the feature master. And he's just killing it. Yeah,
he is. And I was going to say, actually, can you just talk us a bit through the last 2 months? Even though it's been going on longer than 2 months, I think the last 2 months have been incredible.
Yeah, the last 2 months have seen some of the most explosive growth for our channel since we launched, really. And that is because we were able to bring John Cartwright back in, thus, finally reuniting the full GX crew. Because prior to that, it was me, Derek, and Steve. And, so there was a missing piece there all along. And it was also kind of a cool full circle moment, because the origin of Good Vibes Gaming was such that John actually donated his own channel to us so we could start with a head start of around 30,000 subs who were already Game Explain fans. And so instead of, going from zero, he basically said, "Hey, I'm already over here at Nintendo Life. I can't really do my own content anymore. I want to gift you guys my channel to give you a head start," which was just the most wonderful, incredibly generous thing. And so being able to bring him back in a year later was like a really great full circle moment, where it's like, now you're coming back home. The final co-founders finally here, and we're doing this all together. And it's just all been very exciting. And ever since we announced John's arrival or return, our channel has seen growth, the likes of which we haven't seen since our launch. And it's been very exciting. It's looking like that growth has leveled off a little bit since then, which was always expected. That was always going to be the case. But we have gone from around 70,000 subs to almost 85,000 subs in the past 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I would say. And so it's looking like we're going to be celebrating our 100K milestone sooner rather than later, sooner than we thought, certainly. And that's very exciting.
Yeah, that's great. That's drinks at PAX celebration, lemonade, of course.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So you're here on Wired Unplugged, and I don't want to spoil the name of the panel, but for the that Wired Unplugged that we're doing live at PAX East on April 22nd in the Arena Theatre. But Wired do consider you part of the family. So would you like to tell me a little bit about how you met the Wired team?
Yeah, so that was something that kind of, I don't remember the exact details of how it happened, but that was an opportunity that fell in my lap thanks to Aaron here, because I think looking for lodgings at PAX East. I hadn't quite figured out my hotel situation, and Aaron approached me. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a little fuzzy on the details, Aaron. But you basically approached me and said, "Hey, do you want to stay with Wired?" And what's funny is at first I was like, "Does he mean Wired magazine? Like that's kind of a random."
Yeah.
Okay, sure, why not? But yeah, I don't remember exactly what spurred you to approach me, though, Aaron. Do you?
I have a feeling it was maybe yeah, actually I think maybe Danny and Felia had something to do with it.
Oh,
The
okay.
Nintendo, previously
The Nintendo
the
Power
Nintendo
couple.
Power couple, yes.
Lovely people.
I think because Wired were going to be working with them to help out at PAX, check out some of their games. You know, they're absolutely wonderful people. So to do as much as Wired could for them and get them in the show early, let them go off to the Nintendo booth before it opens and things like that. That was great. And you know, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and we can help out. We can help run a part of the stand. We can bring people by. Fantastic." And then I believe there was a conversation because you already knew them, and I think they put out a call of who's going to PAX, and then I think I saw that you responded saying, "Oh, I wish I could, but things just aren't lining up." And then we spoke.
Right. Yeah, because I
Yeah,
think I was having trouble with hotel that year. I think
yeah.
for some reason, having trouble securing lodgings, and then yeah, you reached out to me, and yeah, I completely forgot about the Danny and Felia angle. So yeah, that was thanks to them. And yeah, you reached out to me and basically said, do you want to hang out with the Wired crew in a big party house?" And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. I don't think you put it in quite those terms, but it
It
ended up
was
being an
though.
amazing party house. Yeah, it was. It was one of the most incredible convention experiences of my life, thanks to that big Airbnb we all shared. We had so much fun, and yeah, and
That's
then that yeah.
that's a good segue actually, because I mean, I I I have my favorite PAX memory, which is from that year.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you can talk to the people about the combination of onesies and Mario Kart.
I certainly can. And in fact, what's funny is
I'm
I've
interested.
just recently told this story twice.
Oh, great!
Yeah. So we have one of our tiers on our Patreon, which you can find, by the way, at patreon.com/GVGaming. Really quick there.
Very
One
good.
of our one of our Patreon tiers is called a personalized video response, where you know, the person chooses one of GVG's co-founders and asks them a question, and they get a personal video response back. And so for one of my responses last month, one of our patrons asked me if I have any particularly awesome or memorable stories of gaming with, like, multiplayer gaming with friends. And then the subject also came up as a patron topic on the most recent episode of our GVG cast, which is our like weekly podcast. And so I got to tell this story twice, and I'm going to tell it again. But basically, one of my favorite memories from this PAX trip was us all playing Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in the Airbnb. Now, if you've never played Mario Kart, any version of Mario Kart, it is essentially Mario Kart, but you have to pound a beer during the race. You can't finish the race until you finished your beer. But you can't drink and drive. Who drinks and drives? You shouldn't. Nobody should ever drink and drive. So what do? Do you pound the beer before you start at the starting line and then try to catch up? Do you try to pull ahead of everybody and get to the finish line, pull over, then pound it and hope you're fast enough? It's up to you. And
The
that's what we did.
strategy.
And the
What?
strategy, it was incredibly fun, and we did all this while wearing Nintendo onesies, which just completed the hilarity. And one of my favorite parts of this, though, is that sometime during the night we realized we were running low on libations and needed to restock. And so we called a Lyft or an Uber, one of the two, I don't remember. But we were still wearing our Nintendo onesies. So this poor man like sees four, you know, grown, I think it was four of us, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
4 grown ass adults in Nintendo onesies coming out to his car, and he was such a good sport. He wasn't weird, he wasn't rude, but you could tell that he was definitely like, what did I just walk into? What is going on here? Oh my God. Who are these people? And but it was all great. We were able to restock on some drinks. I think we ended up going to a few different liquor stores, right, Aaron?
We did. We
Yeah.
did. Yeah. We
Yeah.
did. And at one point we ended up walking around the streets. We weren't and we weren't in the most
Sober.
friendliest of places.
Oh.
No,
So
we weren't.
But what usually would be a confrontational situation, I would hazard, actually brought some smiles to people's faces in the dead of night as they saw 4 people walking around as Yoshi, Donkey Kong, Mario, and Luigi.
Oh, they were
So
themed. In my head, they were
Yeah.
way more boring. They were just like red, and they said Nintendo on the. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, they were full on characters.
yeah,
Oh,
Did we
basically.
have a confrontation though, Aaron, or was there some sort of? I know it wasn't the
Oh
safest
no,
area, but I don't remember
Was
anything
it Bowser?
shady happening.
no, there were people walking by, and I think
Uh-huh.
I was a bit apprehensive of, oh my God, what am I doing?
Oh,
I've had a little drink, and here I am in dressed as Yoshi. But there were people walking around, and I think we got some nice comments, which was great.
Oh, that was really
It was
cool.
wonderful.
That sounds good. I love the
yeah,
idea that
it was a lot of fun.
you have to strategize the stopping to drink. That's really, really good. Because
Yeah.
already I'm
Yeah,
in my head.
you
I'm
can't
already
drink and
there.
drive.
Yeah, I'm already thinking.
Yeah.
Right, what do I do? Would I do a lap? If I'm ahead, then I'd stop. Because I don't know
Well,
how.
it sounds to me like we're gonna have to figure it out and go a few rounds at PAX East this year.
This PAX.
I'm
Maybe that's
excited.
what our panel will change to now.
Yeah,
Mario
that's-
Kart
I'm,
Live. Yeah.
I'm sure the enforcers would be perfectly fine with that.
Oh yeah, totally. Get them involved.
No
It's
worries at
fine.
all.
Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
We're all friends.
If you're a Mario Kart expert and have any advice to lend me ahead of my adventure, you can email the podcast at unplugged at wiredproductions.com with your love letter to Aaron as an attachment.
Yes.
But that's really good. We talked about it a lot already. Not as much as I could talk about this all day, but it seems to be, Mario Kart, Aaron Cooper, or just the general atmosphere. But for one reason or another, events coming back is very exciting to us.
Yes.
What does it mean for the Good Vibes gaming team as a whole? Is that something you guys have discussed yet? Have you thought about this or?
Definitely. So we actually did go to PAX West last year right when shows started opening back up. Steve and our video editor Brandon and our art director Daniel and I all went to PAX West together to cover the show. And what we found, unfortunately, as we kind of mentioned earlier, or talked about earlier, was that it was kind of a shell of its former self. It wasn't like the full PAX West experience. None of the big 3 publishers were there. There were, some really cool indies to check out, but it just felt like it just wasn't quite the PAX experience we're all used to. So unfortunately, we found that from a revenue standpoint, it really wasn't worth the money we spent to go. And so for PAX East, unfortunately, the team feels the same way at present, which is we're not all going because it just isn't worth it to spend all that money to go, because we're not really going to get that much coverage out of it. But I am going because I want to meet up with our fans there, and I of all of us, I think I miss and like the convention experience the most, and probably have the most convention experience. Aaron knows I used to work for Udon Entertainment, the video game art book publisher.
Yeah.
And I would do the full convention circuit with them every single year. From booth setup to booth teardown, and I would pull double duty with them and Game Explain doing coverage where I could. So I think for me, I'm just used to the convention experience more than anybody else on the crew, and I miss it. So I don't mind just paying my own way to go, be it PAX East, cover some indie games, do a GVG fan meetup, and now, fortunately, also go for my day job and hang out with Aaron and do cool stuff with him too. So both of you actually. So that's kind of where we're at. We're certain, and plus the thing is we're still very much in our growth phase, so we don't have a big war chest. It's not as though we have a ton of money saved up to spend, like company funds.
Yeah.
So I think we're basically like kind of on a wait and see approach. Like want to start covering shows as a full team, but we can't really justify doing so until the content is back at the shows, right? Until the big three start going back, until we can get exclusive, behind the scenes media appointments with Nintendo, with PlayStation, with Xbox. And that's just not happening yet. So it's just, we're not quite there as a team just because we don't really have the benefits to reap. It's just not worth it from a financial standpoint, but we'll get there. And, if E3 was happening this year, I absolutely think that we would be flying Steve and Derek out and John out to cover the show, all of us together. I live here in LA, so don't need to fly me out. But there is no E3 this year. So failing that, we don't really have any shows to cover as a team quite yet, but hopefully next year.
Yeah. It's
that's my
no, it's quite right. It makes a lot of sense. And I think PAX East is the one that's gonna, if it does well, I think we'll see for the Gamescom period 6 months later, a big buzz around these things. So yeah.
Oh, that's true. Gamescom. Now, I was just thinking. Now, Aaron, I gotta talk to you and Steph about that, because suddenly Gamescom makes a little bit of sense now. Maybe, and I've always wanted to go. So
Welcome
maybe
to Germany.
Yeah, exactly. I've always wanted to go to Gamescom, and so maybe who knows? Maybe I can make that happen. An
opportunity may present itself, mightn't it? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we touched on a little bit earlier the good vibes within Good Vibes Gaming. The plot really is in the title. It's an incredibly positive audience and community that you've garnered. And on top of that, I noticed that you're also a supporter of Safe in Our World. I was actually joined very recently by Rosie Taylor, charity officer at Safe in Our World. And
she's wonderful.
And if you, the viewer or listener, would like to know a little bit more, just go back a couple of episodes. If you want Safe in Our World, it's not the one with Martha is Dead in the title. It's the one just before that says Safe in Our World in the title. So that's the one. But Ash, you're a supporter of Safe in Our World. What's your take on the charity? What interested you about it? What made you say, yes, this is the one for me?
Oh, because mental health, well-being, and mental health outreach are so vitally important to me. I struggle with mental illness myself. I have severe depression. And it's not something that I show very often, but occasionally, chinks in the armor show, and I reach out for support and such. But as someone who, has been diagnosed with clinical depression, I know what it's like. And I know there are varying degrees. There are people who have it worse than I do. There are people who don't have it as bad. But either way, I wouldn't wish living with mental illness on my worst enemy. It's horrific. And if you don't have it, you don't get it. And so because I get it, and because my wife also suffers from mental illness, we both get it. I have a bunch of friends who understand what it's like. It's so important to me. It is, the mental health well-being is every bit as important as physical health, and the two are so inextricably linked. And so I never want people to feel like they're alone, because I know that I have felt alone, even though I know I'm not. But when you're in a pit and you're having a panic attack, or you're having those really dark thoughts, you do feel alone. And so it's just so important to me to try and provide that support for other people, because I know what it's like, and I think you have to know what it's like to really have that full sense of, I guess, just understanding and empathy for that. And so, that's just and that's also something that we led with during the founding of GVG, is mental health well-being. Like, that's one of our pillars, is like we never tell our community that we're mental health experts and they should come to us for advice, but we do have a support channel in our Discord server where people can just air out anything they're feeling, and we're like, hey, here are resources. Safe in Our World is one of them, and we just want people to know that we get it, and that we are a beacon of support for people who need it. And that's just very, very important to me, because I know what it's like.
Yeah, well, it's an excellent point, well made, and I think mental health is becoming a talking point more and more. And what has become very apparent is that it's always been there. Mental health issues have always been there, and there's a big stigma around discussing it. So as the world progresses, people are talking about it more and more. A lot of people are feeling a bit more connected, and I think one of the things I learned very quickly with Safe is how they managed to put that into words in a way that people, gamers, understand it, and how they factor video games as, you know, something that can help people relate to these struggles and things like that. So shouts out to Safe in Our World. You can find out more information by visiting the website or checking out the previous episode with Rosie Taylor, whose like job it is to tell you about Safe in Our World. So trust me, she's pretty good. So one last question regarding Wired before we go off piste. You guys covered Wired Direct. So Wired are doing some video content and live content, audio content, and it was Wired's first time doing something like that with a direct. What did you think? I'll be keeping notes of this, and we can consider this an audit if you'd like.
Nice. What I would say, and I think Steve particularly would agree with me on this, and one of the things we talked about after the Wired Direct was the pacing. The pacing was wonderful. It was on point. It was just bam, bam, bam. Considered compared to something like some of Microsoft's Xbox presentations, where it's like they go on for hours, and they're interspersed. You know, you get game announcements dragged out by like 20 minutes of developer interviews, and it's like, yeah, developer interviews are cool, but maybe there's a separate vehicle for that. Don't make people sit through your entire 3-hour presentation with peppered announcements peppered throughout, right? And with the Wired presentation, it was just, hey, game after game after game after game. Very similar to the Thunderful, the Thunderful World presentation that happened recently. It was just, the pacing was on point. It felt like our time was respected as content creators, but also it felt like our audience was respected as just people who are busy and have their own lives, school, work, whatever. And that was the main thing for me. It was a lot of fun, tightly paced, and that's really the one thing that stands out to me more than anything about the experience.
It's okay, Aaron. Great news for you. Okay, you can pass that on to Leo and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, you're the Minister of Propaganda, so you have to.
I've got it. I've got it. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Great.
Neil will be very happy to hear that.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. So I wanted to end on a more general question, just out of interest. I'd just like to know what the last game you've played was that you've really enjoyed, and is it Elden Ring like everyone else?
It is not. I'm sorry to be the turd in the punch bowl here. I'm not a Soulsborne guy.
What a save.
I got that from my dad. Thanks, Dad. That's what he says. No, I respect FromSoft. I respect the Soulsborne genre. It's just not for me personally. I am so happy that Elden Ring is everything that fans wanted it to be, but it's just not my thing. So I'm playing the thing that everybody's already forgotten about, unfortunately, which is Horizon Forbidden West. I am a massive Horizon fan. I love Zero Dawn so much. I love that story, that universe. I love Aloy. I love Zero Dawn. And so I have been hyped for Forbidden West. And so for me, Elden Ring was kind of a drop in the bucket compared to how neck deep I am in Forbidden West. And I'm playing it every chance I get, but I'm still fairly early on in the story just because there's so much to do in that game. And I actually want to do it all. I want to explore that world and do all the side quests. And so Elden Ring, I know it's amazing and I'm so happy for people, but I'm firmly focused on Horizon Forbidden West. And but I will have to take a little bit of a break from it when Kirby and the Forgotten Land comes out, because I cannot wait for that. I'm such a big Kirby fan, and I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it's primarily Horizon for me right now.
Okay, no, that's something. I think it's been a bit. I feel a bit bad for Guerrilla.
I do too.
Because
I feel so bad because Zero Dawn, was completely upstaged by Breath of the Wild, and now we have Forbidden West just totally upstaged 1 week later or 2 weeks later or something by Elden Ring, and I'm just, and they worked so hard, and the games are so good. And I know they're still selling well. So like Forbidden West is doing perfectly well. Don't get me wrong. But I just feel bad that the conversation has been quelled so quickly again.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of bad luck. Aaron, what have you been playing to finish up the podcast?
Listen, Jake, I have not been able to stop thinking about Elden Ring. I kid you not. Like, I think I mentioned previously, I have only just recently finished Dark Souls for the first time. And that took me 3 years because I don't have a lot of time to play. So I was playing it in like 20-minute chunks here and there.
Yeah.
And my pathway to doing that is because I played Dark Souls way in the past and it didn't click with me. But my path to that was through Breath of the Wild and also through Jedi Fallen Order. A combination of both of those got me to respect and understand what's going on in these games. So I felt like I could finally tackle it, and I smashed in Dark Souls eventually after 3 years, and it was great. I was like, "Yay, personal triumph!" But the amount of joy of going from playing Dark Souls remastered on the Nintendo Switch to Elden Ring and the incredible visuals, the smoothness of the controls and the animations and everything it's divine. It's honestly divine, and I am 6 hours in, and I can't stop talking about it. Actually, the other night I went for dinner with a friend that I haven't seen for a long, long time. We used to work at a video game company together.
Yeah.
And we thought, hey, now things are starting to settle down. Let's actually meet up. Let's have a chat. It's been years and years, and most of the conversation was us talking about Elden Ring. And fortunately, I'm glad, because he told me something that I had missed that is actually going to be quite essential to my gameplay. You get the summonable ashes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
love
had
it.
gone off. I had defeated this giant cat statue with a sword, and then some wolf man with a sword, and I got some cool summon things, but I couldn't use them. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe once I beat this Margit mofo, maybe then I'll unlock the ability. And I asked him, I was like, oh, just out of interest, how do I actually have I missed something before I carry on? How do I summon these things? And it's like, oh no, actually, if you just go back to where you started, and there's an NPC who gives you this little bell, and then you can summon the ashes. And I was like, fuck. Like, I'm glad I knew now, because I would have just been trawling through
Any
the
second
hellscape.
now. Any second now.
I know.
You know,
I
it's
can't
really
wait.
funny. That actually reminds me of a funny anecdote that's had just happened with Horizon Forbidden West that I tweeted about over the weekend. I was having a lot of trouble. I was like, man, I was pretty good at Zero Dawn, and like I pretty much 100% of the game, got pretty good at the combat. But I found that with Forgotten West, I was like getting one shotted a lot, and it felt like I was doing.
Did you just call it Forgotten West after the conversation?
Oh
we
man,
just
I sure
had?
did. Forbidden West, man, because I'm thinking about Forgotten Land. Yeah, Kirby and the Forgotten West. No, Forbidden West. I was getting one shotted a lot, or one or two shotted, and I felt like I was barely doing any damage to machines. And I was like taking advantage of elemental weaknesses and all that. So I was like, do I suck now? Am I getting older? Like, what is it? And it turns out that there's a custom difficulty setting, and I turned on easy loot just to take away the time it takes to get all the different pieces of loot you need for crafting. But depending on the direction of the D-pad that you press to get to custom difficulty, it'll either cycle through very easy or very hard. And I pressed right, so it cycles through very hard, and it leaves every other setting on very hard, and I didn't notice that. So for like 7 hours, I was playing with damage to Aloy and enemy HP both set to very hard, and I was like, oh my god! When I found out, I was like, it's not me. I'm still good at video games. I can still play this game. Thank God.
Yeah.
So
you were playing it a bit like a Souls game.
I was going to say, I think you are so battle hardened now. You can take on Elden Ring, no problem.
That's true. What? No, it's made the rest of the game since then feel like a cakewalk, because I'm like, it's definitely kind of trial by fire, cutting my teeth on very hard unknowingly.
Yeah.
Now it's just no problem. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, look, Ash, thank you very, very much for joining us for a special episode where we don't just wheel out the guest. So that was exciting. And Ash, you've been a pleasure to speak to. Aaron, as usual, you will understand this when you have legions of fan mail that people can send. And I'll just say that one more time. It's unplugged at wiredproductions.com. If you're listening this far, you're one of the good ones. So you can help us out by leaving a little review if you're listening on podcast services, or you can like, subscribe, share with your friends, your enemies, whoever you want, really. And we'll see you next week for another episode of Wired Unplugged. Thank you very much, and goodbye.